Hello, hello. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Carla and Mihalis and the Disrupt team for being such wonderful hosts. In Greece, I love your country. I love your country, your food, your people, your language. Signomi vincero y vin catalaveno ellenica. But I promise you next year, I won't give the speech in Greek, but I'll speak a lot more of your language. I teach and lecture and mentor a lot of young entrepreneurs and students. I was also recently appointed an entrepreneur in residence at Georgetown University. And often I'll get this question, like, what are the keys to success? How did you raise nearly $1 billion in your 20s? Well, I have this mentor. His name is Steve. He knows about marketing and product development and finance. He's extremely wealthy. He's always available for me. And he provides his services for free. A friend of mine who is a businessman that I highly, highly admired asked me, "Wow, that's great, Tiff. Like, where is he based?" And I said, everywhere. Steve goes by many other names, and the name that I use is God. The return on investment of faith. Now, I know you probably didn't think that I meant that literally, and I am the last person in the world that thought that someday I would be on stage at an entrepreneur summit talking about faith. But the truth is that all my major successes in life, I owe to the practice of extreme faith. I mean, we look at the return on investment of capital and people and equipment. Why not faith? It's the only thing that has an infinite return that all 7 billion of us, including the 150 countries that are watching us today, can tap into, and we have yet to reach its boundaries. And what do I mean by faith? I mean, for me, faith in God, but it's also faith in others. Basically, faith in anything bigger than yourself. Because when you operate from a place of faith, it's not just about being outside of the box. The box disappears altogether. All is possible with faith. But back to the $1 billion. In the 90s, I met this man, this incredible visionary named Noah Samara. He had this dream of launching 3 satellites to provide digital content to the world. Now, mind you, this is in the 90s. The internet had not really taken off as much then. Not everyone had mobile phones, and there was no iTunes. So this was huge. And when I heard about it, I thought, wow, I want to do that. I want to be a part of that dream. His team was about 5 people, and they were in this little office in Washington, D.C., and I asked him, "What do you need to get this done?" And he said, nearly $1 billion. And without thinking, I said, "Let me see what I can do." Now, mind you, I was in my 20s, and the most that I'd raised was $5,000 for a startup in college. So where that came from, I'm not sure. But at the time, I was living in New York City, and I was in a training program. Mind you, I wasn't even a real employee, at an investment bank called Morgan Stanley. So when I got back, I was speaking to my manager and the other people in my program, telling them about this dream, this idea, and I was like, I want to do this. And I would go home in the evening and think, how can I do this? How can I do this? And I realized I was asking the wrong question. It's not how can I do this, it's how can we do this? And I got quiet, and I heard that little voice, that little voice inside your head that most of the time we're too busy and too hectic in our lives to even pay attention to. I heard that little voice say, Tiffany, tell the dream to the head of investment banking. Now, mind you, I was in training, so if you look at the org chart, I would have been way down here, and he was way up there. Actually, honestly, I wasn't even on the org chart, right? So people were telling me it's impossible, and I need to be realistic, and that it can't be done. But I begged his secretary and got the meeting, and standing there with fear on my left and grasping the hand of faith on my right, I told him the dream, and he believed. You see, what people say are not facts, they're just opinions, they're just points of view. They can say the world is flat, but if you think the world is round, it's round. You are the truth. You're the truth. You create reality as you go along, whether you're aware of it or not. You have such tremendous creative power. So I quit my job at Morgan Stanley, and I moved down to Washington, D.C., and I was appointed head of international business development for WorldSpace, this satellite radio company. And at that point, there was about 20 of us. So when I got to the office the first day, I'm like, my dream job, right? People were congratulating me like, woo, well done. I go to my office, I close the door, and I freak out. I totally freak out because I was the only department head that had no direct experience in my job. So it was my dream job that I had no idea how to do, right? Like I had to do content licensing and work on compression technology and talk to receiver manufacturers and help open offices in Ghana and Johannesburg, and the list went on and on. And this is what I had direct experience in. I had lived in London. That was pretty much it. But a little over a year later, I had helped to pioneer this whole new type of digital content licensing and had signed deals with Michael Bloomberg and with CNN and was in discussions with Richard Branson. That Richard Branson seems to get around even 20 years later, right? Had lobbied the ITU for global allocation of this bandwidth. That's the International Telecommunications Union in Geneva, Switzerland. And had helped to open offices all over the world and would speak as a thought leader on this technology in a lot of venues. And I was managing a team, although I'd never managed prior to that job, in 7 different countries. But what I did have direct experience in, beyond living in London, was the practice of faith. And over that time, I got really, really, really good at practicing faith, to the extent that I start to note what worked well, what had more predictive results, what was the process and the formula that would allow me to realize dreams. I call it the technology of faith. And basically, it's 5 steps. And I'm sorry I don't have that on the slide, but I'll tweet out the 5 steps. It starts with a dream, not a goal, because that's all about yourself, and it limits you, because then it becomes about what you know, what you can do, what skills you have, what resources you have access to. And as I told you, I'd lived in London, right? That wasn't going to get me through that list. So it starts with a dream. 2, you tell the story of that dream to everyone you know. And I mean everyone you know. I'm talking about the grocery store and the train station, because you have no idea where the help will come from. 3, from telling that story, you end up attracting a tribe. A tribe that will collaborate, which is number 4, to help make the dream come true. And then 5, and this is most important, you have to maintain faith and vigilantly manage your fears so that you never give up and you never give in. You keep taking little steps, little baby steps towards that dream. And that's really actually the trick of the game, is to never give up. But this is the great news. You don't have to do it alone because you're operating from a place of faith, a place in which you're relying on something bigger than yourself. And usually that means other people. Things happen through other people, and there's 7 billion of us in this world. But, and we hear about the ecosystem and the network and the tribe all the time, you don't want to hunt. You don't want to hunt for that ecosystem. It's not work with me. It's not about work with me. Instead, it's I have a dream. I have a dream. And you end up attracting people that believe in that dream and want to work with you, and they'll work with you wholeheartedly. I'll tell you a quick story at WorldSpace. One of the things that I had to focus on was the compression technology. I won't get into the details of what compression technology is, but let's suffice to say that really great compression technology, you could put 1,000 radio channels on the satellite. If it wasn't so great, maybe 500. So that's half the content. Potentially, we're talking about half the revenue. There was a large US player, a dominant player, a well-known player, I won't mention their names, that we were trying to work with to add credibility to what we were doing, but they were a challenge. Then there was this little company. Well, they were much smaller than the US player, but not that little, but small. But they were based in Erlangen, Germany, named the Fraunhofer Institute. And they believed in our dream, and they worked really well with our team. So in lieu of the US player, we would fly, me and others from WorldSpace, from DC to Frankfurt to Nuremberg, and then drive to Erlangen to work with this team. And things moved quickly because they had opted in. They were attracted and believed in our dream. And within months, we had gotten the compression technology to a place that worked for us. And they also had gotten their technology and really pushed their technology to a place where it was more marketable. And now they're the dominant player because their MPEG layer 3 and MPEG layer 4 technology is now known as MP3 and MP4, and it was a win-win for both of us. So don't shoo the small player. Talk about your dream, attract your tribe so that you can maximize collaboration. I so believe in the power of collaboration, and I've seen the power of it play out over the years, being a serial entrepreneur, that my latest startup is a collaboration platform. So I was looking back in history and looking at inventors, man to the moon, flight, electricity, with not that many people coming together and having very basic tools to collaborate. And I thought, what if I can create this platform where hundreds, thousands, millions of minds could work on something as if they were one big mastermind? Where could we go with that? Now it's hard, it's really hard, and I am overwhelmed. But in my mind, I'm already using it, it's already done, because the first step is the last step. You're the truth, I'm the truth. The beginning is the end, the start is the finish, because the only thing that separates it is faith. So then it becomes about maintaining faith. And we each have to develop our practice to maintain faith and to manage fears and to never give up and never give in and keep walking towards our dreams. It's a personal thing. But for me, what I found has worked is physical flow, mindfulness, and a morning routine. For physical flow, I do yoga, but you could run, you could walk, you could swim. Physical flow is not weightlifting, though. It is something with continuous movement. It helps to manage the stress, anxiety, and panic, which we all know as entrepreneurs. For mindfulness, I meditate. I'm not great at it, but I do it. And that helps with focus. And then for the morning routine, it allows me to show up every morning and clean the slate of that fear and that panic. I wake up to Denzel Washington, and I shower to Jay-Z. I always like to say I wish Denzel Washington was actually in bed as I roll over, but, but it's a 3-minute video on YouTube where he talks about the pursuit of dreams with such passion. When I was going through this process of really documenting the technology of faith, a friend of mine had mentioned that she was going to Sicily. And I thought, well, if all is possible, I should be able to convert a childhood fantasy into a dream and achieve it as a goal. I've had this fantasy since I was a child of climbing Mount Etna and looking in. I was one of those children that would do that baking soda experiment. I don't know how that translates around the world, but it's basically where you sit in your kitchen with this baking soda and try to replicate a volcano, and your mom gets mad at you. That's pretty much the summary of it. So when she was telling me she was going to Sicily, I thought, and it was in that same time period, I thought, I'm going to do that. All is possible. I want that. And the dream. We went down there, and of course, everyone was saying, well, that's impossible. I mean, it's not like climbing Mount Everest or Mount Kilimanjaro. It's one of the largest, most active volcanoes in the world. There's no Sherpas or training programs or trails to the top of Mount Etna. You're just not supposed to be up there. They actually actively try to discourage and prevent you from going up there because they don't know when it's going to erupt. But yet, there I am. And I'm afraid of heights. But when we got there that morning and we were doing the general tour as a tourist, and I still had no idea how I was going to end up at the top of that volcano, and it was very active that day, as you can see from the picture. I just held on to the dream from a place of faith. And we were talking to this one guide, and I thought, he's the one. So I told him the story. Un sogno molto importante per me, e anche la mia anima e la mia cuore. Un sogno, a dream. I didn't say, take me up there. I said, I have this dream that's very important to me, to my heart and my soul. And if there's any Italians in the audience, you guys love heart and soul. And so he opted in. He convinced another guide. We collaborated on how to get up there. And that in and of itself was an impossibility because they were supposed to be the people preventing people from going up there, right? We had to pass signs that say, do not, go past this line, right? These barriers. But we headed up. And when we got to, part of the way we drove up to save time so that we wouldn't be up there when it was dark. And then we got out and we got to this point called the dead zone. And that's where the lava has killed everything in its path. Just ash and rock. No plants, no bugs, nothing. Just ash and rock. And I got out. We were out of the truck, and I was looking up, and Etna was, making herself known and heard. And I can assure you that confidence was nowhere to be found. Like, would I have to be confident? And I don't even hike, right? But I focused on my breath. I focused on the dream. And then eventually, we went to the top, and I got a chance to look in. When you come from a place of faith, you really can completely create your own reality. My mom says God will never let you fail or fall, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. I believe in that more than my skills, my experience, my 2 Ivy degrees. It's the only thing that I would bet my life on. So claim your dreams. Claim your dreams, tell your story, attract your tribe, collaborate, and know that you are the truth. You're the truth. You are the truth. You have so much creative power. All of us do. All 7 billion of us have so much creative power with that little bit of God inside of all of us that connects all of us to do anything. I mean, this is how much power you have. This. I know the translator's probably like, is she talking about her finger? Yes. Yes, I'm talking about my finger. This. If you focus on your dream and say with faith, I want that. Done. You start attracting resources, people, opportunity to make that dream come true. Know it. Know it. Claim your dreams. Move forward with conviction, rooted in faith. Thank you.